Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're taking the lower sides and connecting them by a sliding dovetail joint with the front piece. And also the upper rails need to be connected by constructing a frame in between them that will hold the drawer later. So as always, let's start with some planing. Alright, so I have dry fit the main assembly once again, and this is the front rail. It's going to go somewhere here. And now I need to find the exact length I need to cut it to. At this stage I cannot be sure that this measurement is the same as this measurement. I don't know that these are perfectly parallel, and that's what this piece is for. So I'm going to have to take the measurement from as close to the legs as possible. I have my marking gauge still set to that same setting, which is about a third of this thickness, and I'm going to make a mark in here. I'm not going to cut anything there, but now I can place my rail up against the legs and butt this shoulder against that rail, and if I place my marking knife in that gauge line I just made and transfer that to the front rail, there I have the exact length of the component. Alright, next up I want to use these parts that I have already planed to make a frame that will connect the upper sides and also act as drawer runners. I want to make a rebate on the inside, not to really make it stronger, it's barely gonna add any glue surface, but it's more to give it a positive registration when I glue it in. So before I cut these parts to length, I need to make that rebate, so that I can measure accurately how wide the frame is going to be. So these are probably the thinnest parts. I have cut mortise and tenon joints in, and the mortise walls and the tenons themselves are very thin, so they could be a bit fragile if this frame was subject to a twisting force that would cause the tenon to bend inside the mortise. But the way this will be glued into the desk with a good long grain glue joint all the way along both sides, I don't think this frame should ever see that sort of stress. So I'm going to take it apart and put some glue on the joints. So when the glue has dried, I'm going to carefully plane the edges to make it fit perfectly in those two rebates in the sides. Alright, this assembly is now done and ready to be attached to the legs once the legs are finished. I used polyurethane glue for both of these long glue-ups and the mortise and tenons. It is very nice to use on mortise and tenons because it's much more slippery than wood glue, which tends to grab the wood rather instantly and make it difficult to force together such a tight joint as a mortise and tenon is. But also my water-based wood glue had frozen and was destroyed, so that was the main reason. I'm not going to glue the lower front here, the sliding dovetails, just yet. Before that I want to taper these legs, and before doing that I want to take these two pieces that will, similarly to this back stretcher, go across like here, but they will be spaced a little bit to make a compartment for like pencils and envelopes and stuff like that above the writing surface. These two parts were resawn, so they are identical. The back one I had to glue on a little bit of extra material there to get the height I need. It's a very bad grain match, but it's going to be hidden deep inside that compartment and be hardly visible, so I'm okay with that. There's a lot of stuff going on that keeps the legs together, so this does not need to really serve that purpose. It just has to hold the parts in place. So I'm going to do a very short tenon, but very wide, to keep these thin panels from warping with moisture changes. So I decided to do a double tenon just because I noticed this wall was getting so thin. I wanted a little bit of material there in the middle to help support that wall so it doesn't snap. I'm only going to glue the lower of these two tenons, and the upper mortise is a little bit wider than the tenon, so that this board has room to shrink a little bit. If you would glue both these tenons, especially on the wider back piece, that would lock these edges in place, and as it shrinks it'll crack down the middle. So that's my reasoning there. Also, there is a little shoulder. If I brought the tenon all the way up to that edge, as I've done here, that would mean when this panel shrinks, that would expose a little bit of the mortise. So having that shoulder means that the panel can shrink almost a full centimeter before anything shows that I don't want to show. And this is a milestone, because now that these pieces are in place, that means I'm done with all the joinery that I need to cut in the legs. And that means I can start cutting the tapers. I need a couple of short tapers up here and some long tapers all the way down to the floor. You can't really do that any earlier than this because it becomes so difficult to hold on to the legs for chopping the mortises. So I like to save that for when all the joinery is completed. So that's really exciting. We've also finished this assembly, ready to slot in place there, and the lower front stretcher that I'm not going to glue yet. So I'm going to call it an episode here. Quite a few little tasks completed. Next time I will cut the tapers, plane them nice and smooth, and I will also make the breadboard and writing surface and shelf. It's sort of hard to predict. I didn't really know how many episodes this piece would become. It's now starting to feel like it's doable in one more episode, maybe two. We'll see. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.